All right, everybody. Hey, welcome. It is so good to see you. If I haven't met you yet, my name is Stephen. I get to serve here as the NextGEN pastor, and we are so grateful that you would carve out a little bit of time on a Saturday to be here, to learn, to grow, to be further equipped as parents, as guardians, as volunteers. It's really, really good to have you in this space. I want to remind you of a couple things. Obviously, like CJ and Holly said, make sure that you check in because we do want to follow up. We want to follow up with some resources, some things that we want to put in your hands after this so that you can be further equipped. The second thing is throughout the morning, there's going to be another QR code. We want to invite you to ask questions, to submit questions, because at the end of today, we're going to come back in this room together. We're going to have a Q&A session because we really want to hear from you. Maybe there's something that one of the speakers says, whether it's in this session or a breakout or something that you're just wondering. We would love for you to do that. So if you want to grab your phone, go ahead and scan that QR code just so you're ready to submit those questions. We would love for you to do that this morning, and then we will answer some of those a little bit later. So the schedule. In just a moment, I'm going to introduce our presenters, and so we're gonna listen to them in this room all together, and then after that, we've got two breakouts. Breakout for those of you that are parents of kids ages 2 to 5th grade will be one of those breakouts, and then the other breakout is for those of you that are parents of middle or high school students. As a matter of fact, just to get some context, raise your hand if you are the parent of a kid only, 2 years old through 5th grade. Okay? All right? Raise your hand if you're the parent of a middle school or high school student only, and then you have them all across the board. Okay, so a good mix this morning. And here's the thing, is that obviously, as you register for the event, you've got to choose middle school, high school, or kids. We are going to record all of this. We're recording this session. We're recording both breakouts. So that's a part of the check-in as well, is that we want to send that to you so that you have that. Well, here's the thing. Pastor Jason says this all the time, that whoever wants the next generation the most is going to get them. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here to learn how to better serve and love your kid, your student. It's a really big deal to us. And maybe you're familiar with this. We have a tool, a discipleship tool here at Bethlehem Church called the Compass. And it's all about this. It's look up your relationship with God, lean in into community and go out so that you can serve and be on mission every single day. And today is really that piece of leaning in, that we do not take it lightly as a NextGen ministry that we get to partner with you. It's a really important thing for us. So I say that to say, if there's anything that we can ever do to serve you guys, if you need prayer, we are here to serve you. Our team, our kids team, our student team, we are here for you to serve you today, and we would love to do that. One thing that I want to remind you of, to encourage you, is in 1 Peter chapter 3. It says that God has given you everything as it pertains to life and godliness. And here's the thing, inside of that is parenting. So I want to remind you, regardless of how you came in today, obviously we're going to learn together and grow and be further equipped in this space of anxiety and mental health. But I want to remind you and encourage you that God has specifically chosen you to be the parent or guardian of your kid and student. And so be encouraged by that this morning. I want to pray for us, but before I do that, I do want to introduce our presenters. A little bit about both of them, good friends of mine. Will Hutcherson, national speaker, the founder of an organization called Curate Hope. He has been a NextGen / student pastor for over 15 years, and he's passionate about finding practical ways to bring hope to kids and teens who are facing things like anxiety, depression, and despair. Lives in Florida, so welcome, Will, from Florida. with his wife and 3 kids. Yep. And then Chinwe Williams, right down the road in Cumming, Georgia, board-certified licensed professional counselor and the owner of Meaningful Solutions Counseling and Consulting, passionate about equipping parents, leaders, and educators in this space. But her favorite roles are being a wife and a mom to 3 awesome kids. So, last thing is this. They have brought a couple of resources today, and I would encourage you before you leave that you grab one of those resources. They are in the lobby. There is a book that they co-wrote together, 2 books, one Beyond the Spiral and Seen. We're going to talk more about those. And then a new book that Chinwe just wrote that is out there, Calm, Courageous, and Connected. And it's going to be, that's a good resource for you as well. Let me do this before they come on up. Will you do me a favor and just put your hands out like you're going to receive a gift? Because I really do believe that's what today is going to provide. And I want to pray for us, and then they're going to come up and we'll start. God, you are so good. Thank you for these parents and guardians that you have brought to this place today. Father, we don't take it lightly that we get to serve in this way, that we get to learn together and be further equipped. Father, I pray that you would speak, that your voice would be the loudest voice in this room. And we thank you for Dr. Williams. We thank you for Will to bring them here. And we just ask that you would speak through them this morning. We love you. We thank you. We praise you. And we pray it all in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen. Will you guys welcome Will and Chinwe?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen.
Good morning. How are you doing? If you're not doing good, I want you to keep calm. There's a counselor in the building.
Yeah, that's right.
And a pastor. Several pastors. So you are in good hands. I am so excited to be. We are so excited to be with you today, especially today, because originally when we were supposed to be here, was there snow?
Yeah.
A blizzard? I don't know. There's always something going on. It's a beautiful day. There's no rain. There's no snow. And you're here when you could have been outside playing.
Being from Florida, I appreciate that you turned up the heat for me. You know?
He's always cold.
Yeah,
everywhere we go. He's always
always.
cold. So, wow. I feel like Stephen did the entire introduction thing. We're going to share just a little bit about us and our families. Yeah. But first, what we really want to do is get to know a little bit about you. So we get to talk to grandparents, teachers, principals, ministry leaders, corporate folks. Raise your hand if you identify most as a parent or caregiver. Direct parent or caregiver. Wow, yeah, amazing, awesome. So glad you're here. Raise your hand if you identify as an educator. Yay, we love educators. So glad you're here. We get to talk to a lot of grandparents, and they tend to sit in the very front row. Anybody here? Okay, all right, front row's kind of empty. Oh, you're a very youthful grandma. Raise your hand if you identify as a grandparent. And because we see so many grandparents helping to raise kiddos. And so we're excited that you're here. I feel like I'm missing a category, but maybe, have I missed something?
If you're a therapist, are you a counselor?
Anybody a counselor? Yay, my people. See, you can keep calm. Yeah. So the other thing that I want to do is Will and I we want to both introduce our families to you, but really by way of learning a little bit more about your family. So you heard I'm a therapist. I've been in education, teaching. I was a school counselor not too far down the road. Anybody heard of Clark Central? Anybody heard of Athens? Yeah. I was there. That was my stomping grounds. My husband and I met at the University of Georgia. Go Dogs. Yes. I say that wherever we go, but you guys actually cheer me, so. Don't I say that wherever we go? Minnesota, New York, it doesn't matter. Go Dogs. So yeah, we've got, Lonnie and I have 3 kiddos. So yes, I'm a therapist, I teach, I was a school counselor, I've taught at the university level at 3 different universities, but my primary and most important role, as Stephen mentioned, is that of a wife and mom. So I want to introduce my family. Oh, there they are. And I want to get to know your family. We did Christmas in Davenport, Florida, 2 Christmases ago. This is kind of what we look like when we do Christmas, right? You guys look similar with the pajamas. So Lonnie and I have got 3 kiddos. My oldest is Jalen. She's a little bit older now, but guess how old Jalen is? She's my baby with the braids right there and the glasses. Speaking of youthful, guess how old Jalen? Just throw out a number. Just throw it out. 15, 14. What'd you say? She said 20. Anybody over here? 17? Yeah, the number we normally hear is like 14. She's just got that baby face. Jalen is 22 years old. It's wild. But 14 fits how old she is in my head still. She's amazing. She's a computer animation graduate from Kennesaw, and she's artistic and thoughtful and amazing, and also has given me permission to share that she has struggled with anxiety. Raise your hand if you are raising a young adult or somebody in college, somebody that's a little bit older than 18, like that counts. You're still parenting, you're still raising.
Yeah,
so
parenting never ends.
It doesn't end. It shifts and, morphs, but it doesn't end.
Yeah.
And then we have Braden. So Braden is the one with the snowman glasses. I had to turn around because I couldn't remember. And Braden is 14. And I'm curious if any of you are raising middle schoolers. Okay, and the church commences to pray. And Braden also is autistic. Beautifully, wonderfully, uniquely, yes, sometimes challenge can be a challenging experience as a parent. Raise your hand if you're raising a child with some sort of special behavioral, unique need. Yeah. My understanding is that you have a beautiful ministry here, which makes me really happy. I'm so glad that you're here. Raise your hand if you are raising, that's Noah, a talkative child. He'll tell you about his. Noah is 10. He loves math. He loves basketball. He's very social. He's my talkative kid. Do you see his tie, the tie that he chose? It says everything you need to know about this kid. And if you can't read in the back, it says, Dear Santa, define good. And as Will says all the time, we are parents, we are mental health advocates, but we are not perfect parents.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing, and I'm so glad that you're here.
Yeah.
I want to meet your family, Will.
Yeah, I'll show you. This is what my family. So your Christmas has all the pajamas.
They're fancy.
Yeah, fancy.
You see how they roll?
No, I got really muscled into this one. My wife said that you're going to show up and do this, and so we showed up, and this was our Christmas card, and mainly we did it because we have this brand new addition to our family.
So cute.
His name is Comet. He's a very cute dog, although
It's a good name.
He's a menace. He's an absolute menace. Anyone have a menace dog at home? Yeah, okay, yeah, good. We're glad I'm not alone there. My wife, Ariane, and I have been married for 18 years, and we have 3 amazing kids. And this is by far my favorite role of all the hats that I wear, being a dad. And they teach me something new every single day. And I'm just so thankful for each one of them. My oldest is Liam. Liam is 15 years old, and he is on the cusp of getting his license next month. And so pray for me and the amount of stress that I will feel. Anyone have a driving kid?
Oh my gosh.
And that's all fun. And so Liam is extremely thoughtful. He's a kind high schooler. He's a great big brother. And he's in that phase of life when I say, I love you, buddy. He says, okay.
Or you got one of those?
Or you too, But what he really means is, I love you too, Dad. You're my hero.
Yes.
That's what he really means.
Yes,
I just have to interpret it in my head.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I know what he's really saying. And then Reese is in the green skirt there. Reese is 13. She's in middle school. So all of you middle school parents, I get it. And a 13-year-old daughter specifically, whew, that's a lot of emotion. and a lot of fun. That's a roller coaster at times.
It can be. Yeah.
But Reese is absolutely just amazing. She is so smart. She is a straight A student and very kind. She's a very kind individual.
Well, you've got to tell them what she said to me in Hong Kong.
What did she say?
Do you remember? He was FaceTiming his wife, and then Reese, I came by to say hello to his wife, and Reese, his daughter, came behind his wife. And I said, "Hi, Reese, it's Chinwe. Do you remember me? Do you recognize me?" She was like, "I heard your voice. That's why I came into the room."
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that
it's
now.
etched in my brain.
Yeah.
Reese likes me.
Yeah. Reese is very sweet and very kind. That's so her personality, by the way. She really is, yeah. And then Kinsley is my 9-year-old, and Kinsley is in elementary school. She is very artistic. She is very creative. Kinsley is the kid that has her head in the clouds. She is always dreaming up or creating something. Anyone have an artistic kid, a creative kid? Yeah. And so Kinsley is spunky and just full of life and absolutely wonderful.
So cute.
She is cute. And so here's what we want to, and here's why we do this. One, we want, today, we're going to give you a lot of very practical advice. We're going to give you expert, research-backed, practical tools that you can apply to your parenting or your grandparenting or any profession that you're in. But the reason why we start this way is because we want you to know that even though we're mental health professionals, that we're advocates, that we're not perfect. Mm-hmm. And there's going to come a moment where we're going to say something and you're going to feel this parent guilt, if you will. Or you're going to think about the times where you haven't done it correct, or maybe you've blown it at times. And if you start to feel that way, first off, we just want you to take a deep breath and remind yourself, you don't have to be a perfect parent. Mm-hmm. You just have to be intentional. Yes. One step at a time, because today isn't about telling you all the things that are wrong. Today's going to be about giving you some practical tools that hopefully at the end of this, you feel a lot of hope, no matter what the scenario is, no matter what the kids in your world or the teenagers in your world are facing, knowing that there's a few tools in your tool belt that you can help support them when they're going through difficult times or even big emotions. So that's the hope today. My kids remind me all the time that I'm not perfect. Anyone else, like, you feel that way? Not too long ago, my wife, Ariane, was out of town. And she was out of town with our youngest, Kinsley, so I was left with Liam and Reese. And it was one of those weekends where we just had so many things on the calendar. I mean, we had doctor follow-ups, we had practices that we had to get to, we had kids' birthday parties. Aren't they the worst? You know what I'm talking about? You're like, it pops up on the calendar, you're like, do you even know this kid? And they're like, no, but everyone's going to it, you know? And so we got to stop at the store, get him a present. I'm like, why? Why are we doing this? And that weekend, we were late to literally everything. I just didn't do it right. Like the weekend, it was just all a mess. I was rushing, and I packed the wrong things in their lunches, you know? Gosh. I lost my cool a couple times. And at the end of the weekend, I didn't feel like I crushed it, you know, so I thought, you know, I'm going to redeem this weekend. I'm going to model apology. I'm going to model humility. So we're having dinner. Mom's almost about to be home. And I go, hey, guys, I just want to say, like, I'm sorry, you know, this weekend hasn't gone perfect. You know, I'm sorry it's been a little chaotic. I just don't feel like I parented very well, you know, this weekend. And I just wanted to say I'm sorry. And I don't know what I was hoping for in that moment. You know, I think I was like maybe hoping they'd be like, oh, Dad, buddy, old pal, it's fine. You're the world's best dad. Remember, we got you the mug at Christmas. Like, look, here, let me get you that mug. But instead, Reese, my middle child, spunky, spicy, sweet, but spicy at times, she looks across the table and she goes, didn't you write a book on parenting?
They always get you. They just jab you.
Yeah, they do. And they both laugh at me, just like that. So all that to say, you know, writing a book on parenting will not make you a perfect parent, Being a therapist will not make you a perfect parent. Being a pastor will not make you a perfect parent. And so today isn't about perfection. Today isn't about feeling guilt or all the things that are going wrong. Today is about practical tools and how we can be intentional one step at a time. Sound good?
And friends, this is really important because I believe that each and every one of us in this room wants to be seen. So we're going to go to this photo that I just love. Is it loading yet?
It should be it.
It says, look at me. Yeah, I really believe that. And it's funny, we've had this particular slide for a few years, but just the other day, I was in the public library, and a little girl about this age was looking at her dad and twirling and saying, "Dad, look at me. Look at me." And he was a little bit distracted, and we all can relate to that. But we all want to be seen. We wrote the book Seen because we believe it's actually a biological imperative. We believe that it's innate within us to feel seen, right? We're being hosted by a church. So faith is important to Will and I. We believe that when we're going through hard and heavy things, we want to be seen by our Heavenly Father. We want to know that God is right there with us, right? Even if He doesn't remove the thing. But God also wants us to feel seen by those that we do life with. And the truth of the matter is the past few years have been really difficult for all of us. We're all needing to feel seen, but the younger generation feels desperate to feel seen. And that's what we're getting from traveling across the country within my clinical practice and even outside of the country. Kids need to feel seen, but it's been difficult to feel seen. I think the last few years, we've all been living a little bit in a survival mindset. And everybody will tell us how divided we are. And friends, I'm always going to be honest with you. There are real divisions. We can be very clear about that. But as a trauma therapist, that's my focus, is trauma recovery and anxiety management. I see it more as a disconnection. And so there's going to rise in despair that I think is the byproduct of this disconnection. And that's what the research is showing. And so speaking of research, I want us to go into some of the data, and I want to just share with you as a professor, I like to warn my students, even if they're in the counseling program, we're still human. Some of the stuff is heavy, but the tendency is to sort of shy away or dissociate or disconnect from some of these stats that are hard. Friends, I'm going to invite you to do something different. I'm going to invite you to think of someone in your community, someone in your home that may be struggling with one or two of these things, and then keep that in mind as we talk about some of the tools that can be helpful. So here are the stats, the current trends that really provide the evidence of this rise in despair. So if you can see it, since 2007, suicide rates have risen by 76%. That's huge for our teenagers between the ages of 15 and 19, right? Suicide rates have nearly doubled in teen girls, and the highest rate of suicide among all age groups, and this is heartbreaking. We didn't ask how many of you have kids under the age of 10. How many of you have elementary school kids, preschool kids? This is heartbreaking. At any age, this breaks my heart, but our little kids, we're seeing in the data, are struggling with mental health as well. Kids between 10 and 14. Depressive symptoms have risen 21% in boys and doubled in girls. We'll go to the next one. So when we look at young adults, we know that COVID body slammed teenagers and young adults worldwide. So there are a lot of different mental health conditions listed on this graphic. I just want to bring your attention to the top two. Since 2010, anxiety has increased a whopping 134%. When I was a school counselor just down the road in Athens, 15, 16 years ago, depression was the #1 mental health condition. Now it's anxiety, but depression isn't far behind. 106% increase since 2010. So we'll keep going. And something else that I want to share with you. As a school counselor, teachers would come to me, parents would come to me and say, okay, wait a minute. My student is self-harming? What in the world? And I would have to explain why a child who's already struggling or suffering would then inflict harm on themselves. We don't have time to go into the theory there, but just think of it this way. When you are feeling so much, sometimes you start to feel nothing. And the self-harm is a way to feel something. And several of you are nodding your heads, right? So self-harm, admissions, okay? Hospital admissions for students who have self-harmed, non-fatal, praise God. Look at the jump for girls, 48% since 2010. For boys, 37%. And this is what age, guys? Do you see that? 15 to 19. So some people will say to me, of course, doc, there's hormones going on, right? Kids are impacted by social situations. Teenagers, we know, go through a lot. I want you to see the next slide. Look at that. Our babies. I've got a 10-year-old at home. I've got a 14-year-old at home. Kids between 10 and 14, there's even a higher increase, 188%. And I see tears already. There's hope.
Yeah.
But let's look at the reality, right? Let's look at the reality. This is hard and heavy stuff. Boys, 48% increase since 2010. So when people say, are we really having a mental health crisis among youth? The answer, sadly, is yes. So chances are, if you're in this room and you have a preteen, a teenager, a young adult, they have witnessed a friend experiencing some level of anxiety, despair, or depression, or they themselves have. It's been a rough few years.
And for us as parents, as grandparents, as caring adults, I mean, all of this can feel really scary. So often the people that we talk to who care about kids, they ask questions like, what can I do against this invisible enemy? You know, how do I do it right? Am I doing it right? Am I missing something? And oftentimes we can almost feel like stuck, like there's nothing that we can do. And so today we're not here to tell you all the things that are wrong with the world. We're actually here to tell you why we have hope.
Yes.
And why you do have a superpower, that there is something that you have that can influence the brain towards healing.
Yes.
And that your connection, your love, your empathy matters in a big way. And we're going to make that really, really practical for you so that you can apply it to your world today. Because God has not left us alone.
No.
He has not abandoned us. And he has specifically wired our brains to respond to love and empathy in absolute powerful ways. So everyone take a deep breath with me.
We're going to do that a couple of times today.
That's all the bad news. Now we're going to tell you why
Yes.
your love and empathy can actually influence the brain towards healing. So to do that,
Yes.
we're going to give you a very simplified example of the neuroscience and how God wired the brain.
All right, so we're going to start with this brain graphic that you see on your slide. And so we all have taken some class about the brain, right? We know that the brain has multiple parts. It does so many highly sophisticated things. We're going to simplify it for you. Focus on two parts of the brain, really two sides, the left side and the right side. This is what we have found to be really helpful for parents and educators. So the left side of the brain is primarily focused on logical processing, okay? So this is your executive functioning, your organizational skills. This is rational thought. This is where arithmetic lives, okay? So then we have the right side of the brain, which is primarily where emotional processing occurs. So with emotional processing, there's a little structure in the brain called the amygdala. Many of us heard of fight, flight, freeze. The amygdala is trying to keep you safe. Let me tell you something, my friends. The amygdala doesn't give 2 cents about your logic. When it senses a threat, perceived or real, it reacts, okay? So think Your 2-year-old hasn't had a snack and hasn't had a nap. That's the amygdala. Ooh, yeah. Right? And the amygdala's hangry, okay? This is where powerful emotions live. Fear, aggression, the experience of trauma primarily lives in the limbic system, which is the right side of the brain. But guess what else lives there that we don't talk enough about? Love. That's like a whole nother talk, right? So just keep that in mind. We need both. God created us for both sides of the brain. A very quick illustration, especially because I'm in Georgia. I love telling this story. My husband and I went to the movies. He's a huge movie buff. We went to see The Quiet Place 2. Has anybody seen that movie? You can tell the truth. You're in a church, and I know we're not supposed to watch scary movies. It's fine. So we went to see this movie because it was filmed in Georgia. We liked the first one. It was coming off of COVID. I had not been in a movie theater for a while. I was a little bit shaky. So we get to the theater and my husband is like so excited. He's like chomping at the bit. He goes to the concession table and he gets a huge tub of popcorn. It costs $99.99, but that's okay. We were there for the experience. I was like, you got it, honey. So then we're sitting there. I feel myself getting nervous, and then that music starts. It's actually worse. I'm like, jump scare. It's worse than what it was. I like take a gulp. My husband's like leaning in, and then suddenly something pops on the screen. I scream. The popcorn goes up, then falls down. My husband looks at me like this. It was $99.99. I heard you say it, so I added it. That was good. And I could tell he's pretty even keel, but he was a little annoyed. And he's like, "You good?" And I'm like, I'm good. And he was like, "It's CGI." I go, I know. So he's using logic. And he was like, "We're in a theater, everything's okay." And then all of a sudden, he switched it up. He starts rubbing my hair, because I'm sure it was standing up. He rubs my shoulder, he rubs my back, and within 30 seconds, I became calm. I was like, we're in a theater. It's been a while, it's unfamiliar, it's safe. And friends, that's what we're talking about. The brain works together in a healthy, optimal functioning brain. God created both sides to function together. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, those of you who are raising foster kids, those of you who've experienced severe trauma or your child has, if you see something that's reminiscent of the experience that you've had on that screen or in real life, it's going to take more than 30 seconds. But what we're sharing with you does still work.
Yeah, so the problem is that when our brains experience that burst of cortisol, those stress hormones, those stress chemistry that Chinwe was just describing with the Quiet Place, when that happens on a consistent basis, it's almost like the brain can have like a cortisol leaky faucet, like a drip, 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 and it floods the brain. And over time, it keeps the right side of the brain highly activated while actually decreasing logical processing. Biologically, blood flow will shift and prioritize emotional centers of the brain while decreasing logical processing. Now, think about this in a developing brain, like a teenage brain, where developing processes and logical processes rather, are not fully developed. So now we have this huge dose of cortisol that's consistently dripping over and over and over again. It's almost as if the two sides of the brain detach. The way we like to think about despair, that place when someone feels like this deep hopelessness or they just feel stuck, or high anxiety, we like to think of despair like a dispairing between the right side and the left side of the brain. Now, this is really, really helpful because if you are seeing somebody who's experiencing a feeling of despair or high anxiety, and you ask them things like, how do they feel? They may say things like, I don't know. Or they may say, I feel numb. The reason why is because when the right side of the brain is so elevated, it can be very difficult to put those emotions into words. Guess where your language processing predominantly exists? on the left side of the brain, on the other side of the brain. And so this could be really, really difficult for somebody. In fact, one theologian calls despair the dark night of the soul. And so many people, including our teenagers, are living in this constant state of cortisol flooding the system, keeping that right side of the brain highly elevated while decreasing the logical processing. Another way we like to explain it, it's like they've taken a big deep breath of emotional air and they can't exhale. And it all just stays up there. And eventually what happens if we hold our breath? Eventually it comes out all at once, or we pass out, right? And the same thing happens emotionally. It all comes rushing out at once, or we pass out emotionally and we become detached from our emotional state. But the brain responds predictably to this when we experience stress over stress over stress. It naturally does this. It was wired to do this. It was just never meant to stay in that state all the time. But here's the good news. The brain is also wired to respond predictably and very powerfully to love and empathy.
So cortisol is the neurotransmitter or hormone that is connected to stress. Can anybody guess what the hormone that's connected to connection is, or bonding? Anybody? You could throw it out. Dopamine, that's part of it. I'm thinking of one that starts with the letter O. Oxytocin. Yes. So oxytocin, my friends, is considered the love hormone. This is the hormone that's connected to bonding. A lot of times we romanticize it, but it's actually connected to any single time you feel seen, valued, heard, like you are worthwhile. So that parent-child connection, oxytocin plays a role in that. And neuroscience teaches us that oxytocin plays a role in the decrease of depression and high anxiety. So when you feel connected or bonded, think about the illustration that I gave with my husband, right? When you feel safe with somebody, that helps the brain to release all of that high energy on the right side of the brain. And so we actually notice this and we see this during childbirth. Oxytocin gets released during childbirth, during breastfeeding, but it's also when we connect with another human. So this is what I want you to remember. The key to what we're talking about right now lies in what we know about God. God is love, right? And God desires our connection to each other. He wants our children to be connected to us and to be soothed by us. But it's also coming from what we know about neuroscience and attachment research. So the brain remembers feeling safe. This is really important. Whether your child is 15, 25, and even you at 35 or 45, if somebody walks alongside you when you are hurting and feeling desperate and lets you know that you are not alone and helps you to feel safe, they don't just say you are safe. That's all my counselors in the room know this. When I'm teaching therapists, I say to therapists, do not ever tell a client that they're safe with you. Because if somebody says you're safe, I'm running the other way. You know, I'm scary anyways. I need to feel safe. Right? So whether you're 15, 25, 35, or 45, oxytocin plays a role in helping the brain to remember those times. It's almost like a brain hack when you were seen, soothed, loved, connected to. I see you. I'm here with you. I've got you. So that's really important to remember.
So here's the good news. The good news is the brain can heal from high anxiety and despair. And here's even better news. You can play a part in helping influence the brain towards healing. Now, this isn't to say that you as a caring adult or a grandparent or a parent, that you're the only solution. We truly believe in a wraparound approach, that sometimes there are conditions and situations where other support systems might be needed. Therapy might be needed. Medication may be needed to help the brain to kind of overcome the mental health challenges.
Interventions.
Spiritual connections and obviously we're big fans of the church and getting our kids plugged into church. So we play a part of this wraparound approach, and your love, your connection matters. And here's the cool thing, by the way. I mean, how cool is it that God wired our brains to respond to love?
Yeah.
Like, it's almost as if our research is catching up with our ancient pathways.
Yeah.
Right? Like, research is catching up with what we've seen all along in the scriptures.
Yes.
That we are wired in such a way that love is that powerful that it can actually influence the brain towards healing. So that's the good news. That's why we have hope. And we're going to give you 5 practical connection tools that are research backed, based on attachment research and a whole myriad of other disciplines in the psychology and neuroscience world. These are research-backed connection tools that we've seen really work well, and they're very simple to use and to implement. And so the order in these connection tools really matters. And so we're going to give you 5 very practical connection tools. They are to show up, see them, just listen, speak life, and help them to develop grit. So we got a lot of ground to cover in a short amount of time. So everyone get your pencils ready to take lots of notes. Here's the first one.
And feel free to take pictures too.
Oh yeah, feel free to take pictures of the slides, absolutely. The first one is to show up. This one almost seems too simple to matter. We debated even on including this as a connection tool, but here's what we found. The brain does not respond to empathy digitally the same way as it does face-to-face. Proximity matters in terms of that oxytocin release. So it's like pushing the pairing button on your Bluetooth headphones. It starts the process of connection. So presence matters. Now, we live in a very busy world, and there are a million things happening, right? Our schedules are jam-packed. Just like my kid weekend, we have all the things that have to happen, sporting events and homework that has to get done, and kids' birthday parties. They're the worst. But whatever it is, like, we have all these things, right? So how do we create this rhythm where we're showing up and being and prioritizing connection? Well, a couple things. One, we have to show up before they ask us to. And number 2, show up undistracted. And what does that mean? Show up before they ask us to. Yes, we're busy. But what does it look like for us to create a rhythm of consistent check-ins and consistent conversations? The key here is sparking conversations. Parents ask us all the time, my kid doesn't want to talk. How do I get my teenager to talk to me because he doesn't or she doesn't really want to talk to me?
Right.
And here's the reality. The reality is we can't force a kid to talk.
Yeah.
We can't force a teenager to have a conversation. But here's what you can do. Increase the opportunities for conversation to happen. What does it look like to show up before they ask you to? Show up before the crisis, where there's these moments and these rhythms that you've created for the opportunity of conversations. We know some parents who they date their kids. They have a consistent weekly Sunday morning or Saturday morning breakfast or ice cream run, on Thursday nights. Like, there's just these little predictable moments where the kid can expect it, they know it, and conversations may or may not happen, but you're opening up, you're increasing the at-bats, if you will.
Yeah.
For teen girls, they typically will be fine with going to a cafe and sitting across the table and chatting it up. For teen boys, if you do that, they're going to look at you and say, I'm good.
They're going to say, can I borrow the phone?
Yeah. I mean, look at this reel I found, at least that's my son. Look at this video. And so what I found is that in all my years of ministry and working with teenagers, I found that if I want to get a teen boy to open up and talk or have a conversation, usually side by side is better. So there's been times where I've gone to the driving range, not because I love golf, although I'm fine with golf. I like golf, but it's not like my thing. I'd rather fish. But what I found is, like, when we're side by side, we're hitting a golf, conversations happen.
Yeah.
You're driving in the car. Oftentimes with my teenage son, conversations happen a ton when we're driving in the car. That he doesn't have to, it's not that face-to-face, the eye contact, which kind of shut down the conversation. So what does it look like to just create a rhythm and opportunity for conversations? And then the second one is to show up undistracted. in our research, and we had a lot of conversations with teenagers in preparation of Scene, but even just in our work. And so often the feedback was, I just want my parents to stop looking at their phone or stop smacking their watch and just, essentially see me, like just have our conversation. And so I know we like to give teenagers a hard time about their devices, but I really do believe in our society, we have to model.
We struggle with this too.
We do. We have to model our digital use and be really careful. And and it's little moments, like it doesn't have to always be a big moment. Like one of the things I try to do if I'm watching television or I'm watching a football game and my daughter comes in or my son comes in, I'll pause the game for a minute just to acknowledge them and say, hey, what's going on? You want to sit down and want to watch the game with me? You good? Like that 30-second little simple connection point is just me trying to be less distracted. Yeah. Now, again, I don't do this perfectly. So this isn't about perfection, but it's all about what are some intentional steps that you can take to just show up and show up undistracted. Your kids, especially if they're teenagers, are going to want to have deep theological, philosophical conversations at midnight, right? And so I know it's not easy, and I'm not saying you do it every time. But maybe 50% of the time, slow down, even though you're so tired, and just show up. And I literally, in those moments, when my 15-year-old or my 13-year-old wants to talk, I just have to keep it in the back of my mind, just say, just show up, just show up, just show up. 5 minutes, buddy, you got it, you can do this, and I coach myself through it.
You can do this.
You can do this, it's only sleep.
Keep your eyelids open.
You're fine, You could sleep later. So I literally have to talk myself. You can sleep when you die. Suck it up, Will. So seriously, and again, it's not every time. Sometimes my kids start talking. I'm like, hey, listen, I can't tonight. I would love to talk to you tomorrow morning. How about 6 a.m.? You want to wake up at 6 a.m.? Happy. Well, I'll brew the coffee. Here's the point. Here's the big idea. When you show up, here's what they feel. They feel love.
Yeah.
Love is the end result of presence.
Yeah. So our next tool is to see them. So some of you are thinking, I thought that's what this whole thing is about, right? But we actually operationalize seeing to mean this. And so here's where I step on my, what is that hill that you stand on and you start lecturing people? What is that?
Soapbox?
Soapbox. It's not a hill, it's a box. And I'm rarely on it, but this is where I'm going to be on it for just a moment. I believe one of the biggest ways that we as adults fail to see our children is when we ignore, dismiss, or disregard their emotions.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that again because you'll see it in the next slide. We're not parenting children from the past, right? Modern children, because of what's happening in the world, require something different. One of the ways that we fail to see our kids is when we disregard, ignore, dismiss their emotions, because we believe to see your child. This is really important. As a therapist, I coach this all the time to parents. It requires to look beyond what we see on the outside to notice what they may be experiencing or feeling on the inside. We're parenting layered humans just like we are, right? So brief story. I picked up my kid late from an after-school program. He was really upset with me, but I was just trying to ignore it. So I was cracking jokes in the car. I was telling him, different things about my day. But the truth of the matter is I had a rough day. And I was late because I had a clinical emergency. And I'm sorry, you don't plan for emergencies, right? Things happen in life. And I was trying to pull it together and get to the school. And he was 6 years old. And he was upset with me. And I tried to make a joke about it. He got more mad. And then eventually we're in the car going home. He says to me, "Mom, could you please be quiet?" And I paused, looked at the, rear view mirror, and he was trying to fix it up. "Please." Too late. And I went off for me. And that's not really my lane. But again, we're not perfect. I was like, you are being disrespectful. You do not talk to me that way. Oh, you've had a rough day. Do you want to hear about my day? He's like 6. So the more I'm talking, the more he cries. We finally get to the driveway. And then I remember I'm a therapist. I was like, I don't tell families to do this. Right? And I sensed the Holy Spirit say, get in the back. Get in the back. So I did my seatbelt thing, got in the back. And friends, this was a big moment for me. And I looked at my kid and I realized this was the first time that I had seen him all day. I fed him breakfast. I shoved him on the bus. I picked him up. I made jokes with him. I didn't see him. And when I saw him, I saw scratches on his face. They were superficial, but they were there. I also saw wood chips in his hair. He's got real curly, cute hair, real pretty hair. I love his hair. Wood chips all over his hair. I was like, what in the world? But I remembered I was a therapist. So I took a deep breath and I go, babe, what happened? And so he told me something happened and the kids went too far. He went to the after-school teacher. She was probably stressed. She said, you guys separate. And he was like, Mom, she didn't even listen to me. Code word, she didn't even see me, right? And so I said, I go, gosh, that is a bummer. I said, how do you feel right now? He goes, I don't know, which is really common. And I said, babe, do you feel sad? And he said, I feel angry. And I said, I get it. And then he said, I feel embarrassed. He's 6 years old. This is the first time I can recollect my child using that word. But he knew that word. And let me tell you what would have happened, because I grew up, my parents are West African. Shout out to my buddy back there. And, I didn't get asked a lot about my feelings. What would have happened probably is that my son would have walked in the house. My husband would have heard about, he grew up in similar ways, the disrespect. He would have said something to my child. Noah would have walked upstairs without eating dinner, because when you are anxious, how many of you have had that experience where your stomach is doing roller coaster turns, right? And he wouldn't have been seen all day. So this is what I want to offer to you. There are certain situations where our kid absolutely needs to be corrected. As teachers, we're supposed to disciple, teach, and correct our children. But when we're dealing with the mental health crisis, and by the way, I didn't mention this was a few months after they got back into school after COVID, everybody's stressed. I was stressed. So I want to give you a handle. To see them means to slow down, resist the urge to respond with anger, even if you feel it. I felt it. Give yourself 10 seconds. Notice the emotion, whatever it is that they may be feeling. They may not know. A child who's worked up doesn't usually know. So you give them some options. So you name it. Name what you see. So that's label it. Dan Siegel, the famous neuroscientist, says you name it to tame it. You don't even name it to fix it. You may not be able to fix it. You name it to tame it, and then you help them cope. So what does that mean? Give them options. I said, babe, what do you need in this moment? And guess what my son said? I need a hug. And we embraced. Thank you, Holy Spirit. My older daughter, she would have wanted to draw in her adult coloring book. My son with special needs, Braden, he would have wanted to jump on the trampoline. He would not have wanted a hug, right? So experiment, figure out what helps your child to regulate their nervous system, but we've got to be regulated first.
Yeah.
So here's the takeaway. When we help our child to feel seen, they feel understood.
So when we show up, they feel loved. When we help them to feel seen, when we see them, they feel understood. And then now that we've shown up, we've seen them, we've seen beyond the behavior, we've seen the emotion, now we listen. And here's why this is so important. Because going back to the brain analogy, the right brain on fire, right brain energy, emotions really, really big. Well, logical processing and specifically language processing exist on the left side of the brain, the logical processing sides or processes of the brain. So when you're listening and they're talking, or you're at least giving space for that to happen, you're giving time for that to shift over. Going back to the analogy of taking the big, deep breath of air, you're allowing the pressure release valve. It's the giving some space and some time to name the emotion. And sometimes they don't know what the emotion is that they're feeling. So while you're listening, you may say things like, hey, I can see that you're really upset. Do you feel blank? Offer up a feeling word or two. You could say, do you feel frustrated, or do you feel embarrassed, or do you feel really angry? I mean, so you could throw out a few words and just kind of see which one they gravitate to.
Yeah.
They may talk about what they're experiencing, and you can reply back. So what I hear you saying is, that sets you back up in a listening posture. I can understand how you would feel that way is a great statement. Or I can imagine you might feel blank, blank, blank. If I were in your shoes, I'd probably feel that way too. And if you're just not sure what to say, but you want to like kind of keep the conversation going, my favorite go-to phrase, because it's only 3 words, tell me more. That's all you have to remember. Tell me more. Your kid says something about how their day was absolutely terrible, and instead of going into what they should have done differently,
Yeah.
because sometimes as parents, that's what we want to do. We want to go to the logical processing. We just say, tell me more. Be inquisitive. Be curious. Because when you do that, like I said, you're allowing that pressure release valve, and you're allowing them to bring it down. A great tool that we really, we love this tool. It's called the feelings wheel.
Yes.
And this really helps build emotional literacy. In America, we typically only verbalize 3 emotions. What are those 3? Anger, sad, and happy. Right? It's like typically those are the emotions that we describe, but the reality is we have so many more ways to describe our emotions. This feelings wheel is a great tool. I know churches, by the way, they put this in their small group rooms, and teenagers love it. Like at first you think, oh, there's no way my teenager will use this. I promise if you introduce this into your household, this is, excuse me.
Some water.
I'm all right. No, thank you. I promise you, if you introduce this into your household, like your teenagers will lean towards it. Like we have this as kind of a tool in our world. And so when a conflict arises, usually it's sibling conflict, I'll say, hey, what's happening here? And, usually somebody's not, paying attention to what somebody else is really feeling, and she's just being annoying. I'm like, okay, well, what's really going on? So, but there are many times where we'll pull out the feelings wheel and we'll talk about it. And it's not just me implementing. We have a magnet on our refrigerator.
Like the
Sometimes they'll be like, we'll be talking about their day, and they'll say, well, how'd you feel about that? And then they'll go, hold on, let me go get the feelings wheel. They'll grab it, and they're like, I feel, and they'll explain that. Thank you, Stephen.
And the marketing of this feelings wheel has just gone bananas. A teen came into my office and brought in a feelings pillow. I was like, yes. And then I have a feelings wheel clock. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's a really great tool. If you have younger kids, you'll want to use something like this. This is called a mood chart. This is not ours. We just stole this as an illustration. You can find a gazillion of them.
Borrowed.
We borrowed. I'm sorry. Yeah, true. We borrowed it. So yeah, this is just, we didn't print this. It's not published. It's just an illustration of the many that exist in the world of just mood charts. So. If you Google mood chart, you can find one. And if you want that feelings wheel that we showed a little bit, we have that in our books, and we also have it on our website, so you can download it for free and keep it on your phone or print it out at your leisure. So let's say that you're listening to your kid, and you get this hunch that maybe they're thinking about hurting themselves, because like the stats that we shared, some kids struggle with self-harm behaviors or even possibly suicidal ideation. And I know as a parent, as a caring adult, that is like none of us want our kids to ever face those. But if you're listening and they're dealing with some big emotions, you're just concerned or you have a hunch, how do you navigate that? Oftentimes, parents are afraid to ask the question, Are you thinking about hurting yourself, or are you thinking about suicide? And we would encourage you to simply ask the question, even if you have the hunch. Sometimes the fear is that, well, if I ask the question and they're not thinking that, I'm going to put the thought in their brain. That is not the case. And research has shown that over and over and over again. And the best practices in all of the training for suicide prevention is to ask the question directly. And so if you have a hunch, ask the question. I typically like to start with asking the question, like, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Because that kind of hits two birds with one stone at first. And then if the answer is yes, then you ask additional questions like, are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about, ending your life? Like, do you have a plan to do that? So there might be some next questions. And when you ask the question, the first answer may be no. So you may have to ask it again. But don't be afraid to ask the question. That's the most important thing. If the answer is yes, don't freak out. Freak out on the inside, not on the outside. Take a deep breath. And the best way to respond in that moment is to just affirm them.
Yeah.
Affirm them with, I love you. Thank you for sharing this with me. I know it took a lot of courage. Is it okay if we get help together? And that last phrase is really important because I want you to know, as a parent, as a caring adult, you don't have to navigate that by yourself, and nor should you.
You shouldn't.
You should definitely take additional steps to get help, have a conversation. If the answer is yes, I have a plan to harm myself and the means are there to do so, you want to take immediate action. That becomes a very urgent crisis moment, not just mild suicidal ideation. That becomes pretty emergent. And so we'd recommend at first dialing 988. This is a crisis hotline. This is a great tool for just giving you the next steps.
Yes.
And if you're just not sure or it just seems like it's really severe, you could also call 911. You could call. You can go to the emergency room. Just take immediate action if it seems like it's very much an imminent danger. And if it doesn't seem that way, and you're just concerned about your kid, we actually talk about a few stories in Scene about how parents have responded to that. But the key is just affirm them, let them know that you love them, and then keep taking some additional steps to help them to get over those challenges that they're facing in that season. So here's the big idea. The big idea is when we just listen, the end result is they feel safe.
Awesome. So listening provides that emotional exhale. So after the exhale, this is what comes next. We speak life. So this is another one that we sort of grappled with putting in the book because as parents, as educators, especially as Christian parents, we tend to go here first, don't we? Right? Like, you've got this, attaboy, attagirl, God loves you. We, instill gospel truths. Those things are important. But if we're not doing the first three, if we're not showing up, if we're not seeing them, if we're not listening, every single thing that you say with good intention is going to fall on deaf ears. How do I know this? Because I've been working with teenagers my entire career. And so we've got to do these things in the order. But speaking life, we fought for to keep in the book because it's so powerful. The Bible tells us, I believe in Proverbs 18:21, that life and death are in the power of the tongue, right? Lies in the power of the tongue. So that means words have power. Words can build and words can tear down.
Yeah.
And I want you to know that it's not even words coming from you as parents. And we mess up sometimes, right? We lose our cool. We say things that we don't mean. I am learning from working with teenagers my entire career that they're sensitive to the words that are echoing throughout culture. Words that tell them who they are, who they aren't. Words that don't lift them up, aren't very uplifting. And sometimes it does come from coaches or ballet instructors or people that are really trying to get the best out of them. But for some kids who are highly sensitive, those negative words, and hear me out, family, quickly turn into negative thoughts. So that's where we come in. Those who love kids, whether you have biological kids or not, they need to hear many more positive words to counteract the damage that can be done with the negative words. So I want to share with you just a couple of things just to think about. Make this your own. So don't necessarily feel like, I've got to say this. This doesn't even sound like me, right? Make it your own, right? Think about your kid. Think about the way that you language things. But these are some of the things that, stand out. Working with kids forever, I'm proud of you. So I mentioned that my parents are West African. My dad did not grow up learning a whole lot about mental health, but when every single time I tell him I'm going to an event like this, he says something like, "Daughter, I know nothing of which you speak, but I'm proud of you." You guys, I melt. And I'm 25 years old. The lies. The lies I tell in church. Y'all are laughing too hard. You're important to me. You showed great leadership. Don't just say attaboy, attagirl. Be specific. In psychology, we call it labeled praise. I had no idea I was good at connecting or communicating or encouraging until somebody older than me told me. I had no idea, right? So speak life into your kids in a very specific way. It makes it more meaningful. And every now and again, and this really works when they've pushed your buttons, it's going to be hard. You ready for it? I love being your mom. You can say it through gritted teeth.
I love you.
Maybe not in this moment. But I say that to my kids. I was like, I'm so glad God gave you to me, And maybe 5 minutes ago, we were not seeing eye to eye, but those things matter. We'll go to the next one. And so tons of research, educators in the room, about this. Growth mindset. Oh my gosh, we can build a child's brain by helping them to realize that change can happen. Nothing is fixed, okay? If they work hard, if they're persistent, they can grow, they can achieve and attain their goals, right? Your hard work is really paying off. My kid was doing something, he threw a pencil, he was frustrated with the homework assignment. And my husband was like, I'm gonna talk to him. I was like, no, I got this. And I said, oh, it's frustrating? Yeah, it is frustrating. That means your brain is growing.
Yeah.
The dendrites are forming. He's like, what are dendrites, Mom? Right? And then we have a conversation about it. You kept going even when it got hard. My newest book, Calm, Courageous, Connected, is about what we're seeing with younger kiddos. And the biggest thing that we're seeing across the country is task persistence, a lack thereof, frustration, intolerance, right? So we need to build that. So this is one of the ways that we do that. And then here we go again. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. That never gets old. And here's what our kids get out of it. When we help them by speaking life and counteracting all of culture's nonsense, we help them to feel worthy.
We want our kids to not just live in their emotions,
Yes.
right? We want them to be able to face negative circumstances and overcome those negative circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we want resilient and gritty kids.
We want
Amen?
them to logically process,
Right,
right?
yeah. But we have to remember that the world that we grew up in is much different from the world that they are growing up in. So we grew up, likely, you guys, maybe not everybody, but maybe you grew up in a household where when you face difficult things, your parents said, suck it up, rub some dirt on it, you'll be fine.
Take some tussin.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the reality. What we didn't realize that now we have to realize is that culturally, we had all these micro moments where oxytocin was being released in our brain, building up our resilience.
Yes.
50 years ago, my grandparents would naturally just run over to somebody's house, knock on the door without giving any forewarning. And their friends, Henry and Judy is the ones I remember, would open the door, smile, and be like, what are you guys doing here? And my grandparents would say, we were just
In the
a neighborhood. They lied. They drove across town. I was with them. And we'd walk in, we'd sit down on floral couches, And they would just have conversations. They would talk. And what they didn't realize is that, in these natural moments of connection that existed in previous generations, oxytocin and happy hormones were all being released, building up their brain chemistry in a positive way. They were building up their resilience because naturally the conversations, if you have an engaging, significant conversation with a friend or a family member, and let's say it goes beyond 2 hours without digital distraction, inevitably it'll start off really high, it'll be laughing, you'll have, light conversation, but it will inevitably dip into vulnerability. Research shows us over and over and over again.
Yes.
And if you think about your conversations, you could see this pattern.
Yes.
And so naturally, my grandparents' conversation would be, hey, I remember you said last time we were meeting, you were having a procedure, how'd that go? And now all of a sudden I feel seen because somebody remembered something significant about what I was going through.
Yes.
Oxytocin is released and I know that they love me, right? So they had this building up of resilient brain chemistry over and over and over again. Even you, growing up in 9th grade, if you experience a disappointing event, it's likely you hung out with your friends every day after school. So you tell your friend, they'd give you a bro hug. They'd be like, sorry, dude, I'm so sad that Julie broke up with you, whatever, right? I felt seen by my friend. Now, here's the world they live in.
Yeah.
You won't believe what happened. They empathize. They send me back a text message. My brain doesn't see their face wince. I don't feel the appropriate physical touch. I don't hear their tone of voice, which means my brain does not release the oxytocin the same way.
But kids are still empathetic.
They are.
The text messaging, but it
It's not that
doesn't
they're meaner.
transmit the same way.
So why do these connection tools in the way that we're talking about matters? To your point, we have to meet right brain with right brain, left brain with left brain. When right brain is activated, meet right brain with emotion, meet emotion with emotion. Then when left brain comes back online, then meet left brain with left brain. That's why the order of these tools matters. So when we get to the developing grit, now we start to do things like helping them to get rid of ants. We call these automatic negative thoughts. We borrowed this from Dr. Daniel Amen, a brilliant psychotherapist, researcher, and he accurately defines that every single one of us have these automatic negative thoughts. So we have to challenge those thoughts and help our kids to challenge those thoughts. After they feel seen, then we can help them challenge those thoughts when the left brain is back
And
online.
that is a form of discipline, which is teaching and correcting and having them to look at something from a different perspective that's more helpful than the initial perspective that they're holding on to.
And in our breakouts, we'll dive into these
Yes.
practicals a little bit more in terms of these tools that help kids to overcome
Yes.
these sticky situations. This is a tool that we like to use. It's an acronym. It's kind of based on the same principle of Philippians 4:8. Think about such things. Think about what is true, what is noble, what is right, what is admirable. If anything is excellent or praiseworthy,
Yes.
think about such things. And so we use this acronym. Think is it true? So challenge the negative thoughts. Is it helpful? Is it necessary? Is it inspiring? I said it wrong. And is it kind? The last one is it kind? So we can help teach our kids how to challenge these negative thoughts and really ask hard questions. And so here's the reality. The reality is when we help them to develop grit, the end result is they feel empowered.
Empowered. All right, friends. So we are at the time where we're going to close our keynote, but we're going to move into our breakout sessions. We'll get some instructions from our leaders. But as we close out, this is where you can help me. I grew up with parents who were educators. My dad was a French professor. My mom was a Montessori teacher. So and Will is a pastor, so he loves call and response. So this is crowd participation time. And this is going to get into your memory banks, and feel free to take pictures. So here is the crux of every single thing that we've shared this last hour. When we show up for our kids undistracted, even when it's inconvenient, they feel awesome. When we see people in the back, when we see them looking beyond the difficult behavior and see their emotion, they feel awesome. And when we just listen, holding back what we really want to say to kind of understand where they are, they feel. And then when we speak life, counteracting all of the negative messages that they get from peers, from culture, from social media, they feel. And then when We develop grit, which is really what we want. We want resilient, capable, tough kids. But we've done research that says this is the order. So when we help them to develop grit, they feel
Empowered.
Friends, I hope you feel a little bit more empowered today. Thank you so much for this morning, this time.